Welcome back to another episode of the Simplify Senior Transitions podcast, the show that helps families, seniors, and professionals navigate the emotional, financial, and logistical journey of senior care. I'm your host, Dale Corpus, a senior transition specialist and real estate expert based in the San Francisco Bay Area. And like many of you, I'm part of the sandwich generation, juggling the needs of my own aging parents while raising my own kids. If you're feeling stretched thin, trying to make decisions around senior care, housing, and support, you're not alone. And today's episode is going to speak to both your heart and your head. My guest is Vanessa Valerio, COO and co-owner of Care Indeed, a top-rated home care agency here in the Bay Area. She's also a registered nurse and a powerful advocate for high-quality, relationship-centered home care. In this conversation, Vanessa pulls back the curtain on what it really takes to provide compassionate care at home and why it's important for both caregivers and families to understand that the journey isn't always perfect. She opens up about the realities behind running a home care company and why sharing the struggles, not just the success stories, can make us all better at supporting our loved ones. Whether you're actively searching for a home care or just starting to explore options for a parent or spouse, this episode offers real talk, practical insight, and plenty of heart. Let's dive in.
Welcome to the Simplify Senior Transitions podcast, where we help families navigate senior living, real estate, and everything in between. Hosted by Senior Transition Specialist Dale Corpus, this show brings you expert insights, real solutions, and stress-free strategies to make senior transitions simple. Ready to dive in? Let's go.
And we're back, everybody. Vanessa, I'm so happy to have you on this episode today. How are you?
I'm good. And Dale, thank you so much for this opportunity to collaborate with you. I've seen a lot of your videos, super impressive. So it's a privilege to be one of your guest speakers.
Oh, thank you so much. And I've seen you live speaking on panels multiple times. So this is a walk in the park for you, you know?
You're right.
So let's jump right in. First question for you is, can you share the story behind founding Care Indeed?
Absolutely. So we started in September 2010 in a very tiny office in Palo Alto.
Okay.
And I have to give full credit to Dee Bustos, who is our CEO, whose vision started Care Indeed, really, right? I was her main supporter. So I shared this with a lot of our colleagues that for a year and a half, I used to go to Nativity Church in Menlo Park, praying because I was asking God whether, am I fulfilling my friend this dream instead of mine? And it was until a year and a half later when I realized I belong here. And, it was a hard first few years because given that people think we're juvenile in the industry, English is our second language. Two Filipinas trying to make it in the home care world, it was really tough. So we celebrate small wins. I remember having our first client, a Japanese client in San Jose, where we got 4 hours, 3 times a week. And we went to El Polo Loco to celebrate, That was 15 years ago.
Wow.
So we bootstrapped. Very hard few years, but here we are.
Well, congratulations. And you're still here and you're stronger than ever. What was the turning point that made you choose this field?
Dale, to be honest with you, I don't think I chose this field. I feel that it chose me, right? I'm known in my family to be the late bloomer. I did not know what I wanted in life until maybe early 30s.
Okay.
And caregiving actually was the first job, first profession that I got in when I first moved here from the Philippines.
Okay.
And the funny thing was, all the clients that I took care of unanimously said I did a great job. And I felt like I did not even do anything special. So it was in some ways a revelation for me to see maybe this is where I belong.
Mm-hmm.
With my brother and my mother, who are both nurses as well, pretty much have a huge influence on me taking nursing here in the U.S. So that pretty much started everything.
Okay. Now, How has your background shaped how you lead today?
Okay, there's two things. First, as a Filipina, I'm not sure if you can relate because you're born and raised
Yeah.
here. In the Philippines, the filial piety where there's a sense of responsibility and respect towards elderlies, your parents, there's moral obligation to take care of them, as they get older and stuff like that. I feel like that's embedded in me. So doing this work, doing this line of work is really natural, right? And having that kind of respect towards older adults comes natural for me. And so the advocacy of like ensuring that they get the best care is something that's really here, right? Next is my background as a caregiver. When I first, again, moved here, I was struggling to make sense of why caregiving. I finished business management in the Philippines, and I felt like, okay, I have bachelor's degree in the Philippines, and now I'm doing something so, at that time, like very embarrassing work,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't realize that in some ways God planned everything for me, where I have to do the work of caregiving for me to have a better understanding of how it feels to be a caregiver.
Mm-hmm.
So now, as one of the leaders of Care in Need, I'm able to talk to caregivers with a greater sense of understanding, genuine understanding that the work that they do is not easy. So every time that there's some situations, maybe roadblocks or challenges that we face, I don't go to the meeting judging them,
Yeah.
but more so understanding that it's hard to do the role. And there's other roles that they play outside of caregiving in a workplace, right?
Yeah.
So for me, those are the two things, as a Filipina, and at the same time, the work that I did as caregiving really played a pivotal role as a leader of Care Indeed.
That's excellent. A lot of what you said does resonate with me. I wasn't born in the Philippines, but I'm a Philippine American. But a lot of the things that my parents taught me is the same, things that you just mentioned. That's about respecting your elders. And I feel like in our culture, we just have this understanding to respect your elders and we know how to take care of them. We lead in with our heart. And no wonder that the Filipinos really excel just in healthcare. I mean, my older sister is a physical therapist, and my younger sister is a nurse. And here I am in business, but I'm a little bit different. Obviously, I'm in real estate, I'm a realtor, but here I am. I work with all walks of life and ages, especially people like to come to me because they could open up to me. And I know that I am going to be their best advocate, even in a real estate transaction, whether what's going on with the emotional dynamics with the family that's involved in the transaction. Every transaction is a little bit messy, but I know how to, manage expectations and just be respectful of what everybody's feeling. And I think that also just comes from, just being understanding. And I think, and a lot of that comes up from the upbringing, just honestly from our culture, that if that relates in any way. So yeah, go ahead.
And I think, like what you're doing right now in terms of like talking to different resources like myself,
Uh-huh.
like having interviewing different home care agencies, home health agencies.
Yeah.
I think that speaks volume on your advocacy to senior care because you're telling the community that there's options,
Yeah.
right? And I think giving people options is one of the advocacy that you're actively doing at this point, Dale.
Yeah. Well, thank you for that. I like connecting the dots and putting everything together. And one thing that's my strength is being able to connect with a lot of people,
Correct.
Yeah. So moving along though, I know caregiving is so personal. Why
Yes.
is this work meaningful to you?
I shared with you a while ago that I'm a late bloomer,
Yeah.
right? And, struggling to find where I belong
Yeah.
was really hard for me in my early years. And realizing that it was caregiving who opened the doors for me makes it really meaningful personally.
Mm-hmm.
I'm also the type of person that I need, in order for me to thrive in any roles that I play, I need to know the purpose behind it. It
Mm-hmm.
cannot just be transactional. It cannot just be about money. You lose me when that happens, right? It needs to be something that serving others. It needs to be something where another human being feels like they're seen, they're heard. So
Yeah.
caregiving actually was that profession for me, and I hold it really sacred. I feel like anyone doing the caregiving work should be really recognized, should be given the accolade that they
Yeah.
really deserve, right? So
Right.
this work is not just meaningful for me, but to a lot of people doing the work. And I'm sure for all the family members who's benefiting in clients who are actually receiving excellent care, I'm sure they see that this work is beyond
Yeah.
meaningful.
Right. 100%. Now, let's segue into something else. Let's talk about what families don't see, the human side of home care. First question here is, what do families often misunderstand about home care?
First, especially the matching, I think one of the things that I wish to, in some ways, educate our
Yeah.
community is that despite that we go and meet the client, do an assessment and everything like that, that the matching sometimes takes time. It's not instantaneous because, again, we're dealing with people, right? The nuances of care, personalities, and everything like that. So sometimes, given that there's always urgency of need, right? So some family expect us to have that instant match
Yeah.
with client and caregiver, but sometimes it's a process. There's a lot of back and forth. There's a lot of like things that we have to consider, the skills, the experience, the personality is sometimes a deciding factor in home care. Another thing that I think I wish to share is really retaining caregivers, retaining employees is not that easy, right?
Right.
With all the options out there, a lot of home
Right.
care agencies there, or even like, different work opportunities available nowadays. It's retaining caregivers, employees are some of our quiet battles, and that's the reason why we're constantly working really hard to make sure that they're trained, to feel that they're heard, to feel that they're valued, and sometimes it's not enough. So those are some of the things that I think behind closed doors that we deal with on a day-to-day basis.
Okay. Now, you've mentioned the emotional toll that this work takes on caregivers. Can you speak to that a little bit?
Well, again, as a caregiver, as someone who's been a caregiver for
Yeah.
many years before becoming a nurse and owning care lead, I know how it feels to be burnout, right? And
Yeah.
the emotional toll is because the nature of this profession demands us to always have compassion, to always have this understanding of our clients. We are expected as caregivers to always be on top of our game and to
Right.
always be available and ready to serve. But there's also, again, other responsibility as caregivers that sometimes we don't take into consideration, like being a mother. These caregivers are mothers, these caregivers are fathers, these caregivers are friends. And there's other responsibility that they play outside of caregiving or professional caregiving. And imagine if the society is constantly demanding you to always be on your best self, right?
Right.
Who are the people that you can talk to and vent out and be like, I'm not in my best space right now. I can't. I can't
Right.
today. You know? So that's true. I think those are some of the reasons why it takes a toll, emotional, mental toll on a lot of caregivers because, again, the expectations of the society, the different roles that they play, and maybe a safe space where they can really just be.
Yeah.
And I think those are, that's one thing. And again, when you're caring for someone, whether you're paid to care for someone, you unknowingly develop that genuine care for that person.
Hmm.
For when they get sick, when there's a life transition, it's not easy because again, you're expected to always be tough, to always be ready.
Yeah.
But when there's transition and when you have to grieve, do you really have time to grieve? Right? Because you have to work the next day so you can pay your bills. So grieving might not be available for a lot of caregivers because they have to work and get another client, so they make sure that their bills are paid.
No, I get it. It's tough. It's really
It is.
now. What what are some of the behind the scenes challenges families don't usually see?
Again, the matching
Yeah.
of, the challenges in matching the right caregiver and right clients. Retention, the initiatives that we take to retain
Okay.
qualified, compassionate caregivers, those are things that we really, really work hard behind closed doors.
Yeah.
And what else? I think those top two are things that I think some things that, some of our battles that we face on a day-to-day basis.
Okay. What keeps you and your team grounded on tough days?
Ooh, tough days. There's a lot of tough
I
days in
bet.
there,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Because again, we're dealing with people's
Right.
lives, ever changing, clients not being happy with the services, partnerships not working out, just the different government employee compliances that we have to deal with. So those are some of the challenges that we face. And I think for me, how we handle that is my hope is as a leader, they get to know me as a person.
Yeah.
They get to see the human side of me. And I think it's very important just because knowing your human side
Yeah.
allows people to trust you even more, allows them to see that you're not doing this type of work just for the sake of money,
Yeah.
right? And having those kind of shared experiences that, because again, home care is real, it's life, it's about people. So we have definitely shared experiences, whether it's a good thing or challenging ones, that allows us to, in some ways, be in each other's support group when we're not in our best space or when there's some challenges that we face, right?
Right.
So I think in just to summarize what I said, in home care, we're dealing with people's life. This is their real life. And those are some of the things that allow us to understand that it's challenging at times. And we're able to develop the trusting relationship during the process. So that keeps us grounded.
Yeah. A lot of times things don't go perfectly, right? And every mistake made is a lesson to be learned and to grow from, right? You learn from these setbacks. I know
Absolutely.
that a lot of people and companies typically only want to highlight their wins. Why is it important to talk about the hard parts too?
Oh my gosh, Dale. I don't think I can continue being the COO of Care Indeed or even be in this industry if I cannot be authentic with my journey,
Okay.
right? For the first few years of the company, I was that person or leader who wants to look good every time.
Yeah.
Look good in public space, right? How people perceive me, how people perceive Care Indeed. And it was a struggle for me to be able to share authentically what we're going through at times
Yeah.
because we have to for me I have to keep it hidden because what are they gonna think of me, what they're gonna think of Kirby. But what I realized that there's no shame in failure. There's really no shame in knowing that there are times that it's a struggle, that there are times that it's hard. And I think of my nieces and nephews and the future generation of how are we going to teach them to understand that failure is part of success,
Mhm.
that failure is a must, that hard things is a must for you to be stronger, for you to be wiser, for you to be kinder, and for you to be compassionate not only to others but to yourself, right? So I feel like my advocacy is to be able to live in such a way that I can be one of the catalysts in sharing to a lot of entrepreneurs who are brave enough to take this role and to be even venture businesses that to be successful, you should be ready and be open to closed doors, to failures, and to a lot of people who might not believe in you. So I feel that it's a calling for me to start sharing and, sharing my stories and not be ashamed to do
Yeah.
so.
100%. And I 100% relate. I'm an entrepreneur as well. And I feel that every successful entrepreneur didn't become successful if they didn't fail a gazillion times. There's a saying that you just need to keep failing forward. Just as long as you learn something, you've grown from it, you never make that mistake again. And sometimes just making that mistake is better than taking any business class,
Absolutely. 100%.
Yeah. So can you share a time when something in the business didn't go the way you planned?
I remember something in 2024,
Okay.
a partnership that I thought will last ended
Okay.
abruptly and no reason given.
Okay.
It was really painful, even personally,
Okay.
because I think, from my perspective, we invested in the relationship and the partnership for years. So it was tough, and it took me a while to really make sense of it.
Now, how did you bounce back or grow from that experience?
I did not bounce back immediately.
Okay.
I think I allowed it to happen organically.
Okay.
The process, it hit my confidence for a while. Like, did I do the right thing? Was there anything I missed? What just happened? And the beauty about that, which I'm surprised to share this with you because I never thought that I will have this kind of realization, was there's beauty in losses. There's beauty in closed doors. You and everything and everyone is not meant to last. And that allowed me to really understand the gift of letting go and focusing my energy, our energy, to improving myself, improving ourselves as a company, and really understanding that when a door closes, there's definitely more windows gonna open. And that really happened. So it's a cycle.
Yeah.
It's a cycle.
Yeah. 100%. Now, what advice would you give to other agency owners or caregivers feeling burned out?
Listen to your body. Listen to your body. Burnout will be part of our lives. Whether you're an entrepreneur or you're a caregiver, it's going to be part of our lives. But listen to your body. When your body is telling you you're tired, most likely you're tired. When you're becoming short, impatient, it means that your body is telling you to pause and find time to do something for yourself that will make you feel recharged again.
Now, I want to switch topics a little bit. I want to talk about, families that are now considering choosing the right home care partner. As we all know, there's a lot of competition in the space. There's a ton of options. I mean, it's more so about finding that right match that families are looking for with the right agency. What are the wrong questions families often ask when interviewing agencies?
For me, Dale, I don't think there's wrong questions when it comes to home care.
Okay.
I feel that families should be asking any and all questions they have in mind, because the goal is for them to make the best choice given the intimate setting of home care, right? So any questions that will make them feel at ease, assured in terms of finding the most appropriate home care agency for them, I think they should be asking those questions.
Okay. And how can families recognize good caregiver training or oversight?
For me, I believe the only way they can see if there's good caregiving oversight and training is when the actual service starts.
Yeah.
When something like when the client had a fall, or some medical emergencies, right? How the caregiver respond to that?
Yeah.
Would they do appropriate steps to handle those situations, right?
Yeah.
Did the home care agency supervisor or case managers responded on a timely manner? And what did they do to support them? So I think talk is cheap, right?
Yeah.
When you're presenting your agency or your company to a client, you can say all these beautiful things.
Right.
Will you do those things that you promise? I think that will be the test when the actual service starts.
No, I agree. Regarding Care Indeed, the area that you cover geographically, what parts of the Bay Area or what's your territory? Where do you cover?
So entire peninsula, like
Okay.
from San Francisco up to South San Jose, a
Perfect.
little bit of East Bay.
Okay.
We're hoping to expand there.
Perfect. And what's something Care Indeed does that sets it apart from other agencies?
Very good question, Dale. I think for me, first our story,
Okay.
right? Dee and I were both caregivers before when we first moved here in the U.S. Became a nurse, and both Dee graduated recently. She took her executive MBA at
Nice.
USF, and I'm taking mine at USC for master's in gerontology. So there's really a deep desire for continuous education, just to make sure that we can share all the learnings to our team members and to the community. I think being a caregiver is also something that sets us apart because we're not just someone who started the business without any background in caregiving. And I think being able to really understand the role of caregiver, how it feels to be a caregiver, in some ways it's a leverage for us because we're able to communicate better and treat our employees better.
Okay. Can you walk us through how you match caregivers with clients?
Okay, so the first thing is, assessment.
Yeah.
Preferably it's an in-person assessment, right? So this typically takes like 30 minutes to an hour, depending on the client's questions or maybe knowledge about home care. This will allow us to really visually see what's going on in the household, the client, and allow the family members and the client themselves to provide us some of the nuances in terms of their care, their needs, their expectations. I think those are super important. And, we'll also be sharing with them the company's information, how we work, processes, grievance process, all those things, which is, I think, very important, clients'
Yeah.
rights and responsibilities. And then it depends whether they want to start the services. They're still looking for other home care agency, other options. And, we'll just wait for them to give us the go signal, whether they want to move forward, or even we'll tell them whether that same day, whether we have the right staff or the right people to support them. If not, we refer them out. So
Right.
that's pretty much the initial part of how, the matching, because with assessments, we're able to see and hear what they want. And that now with the pool of our caregivers, we're able to see which one works. And typically we offer an interview. I think it's super important for clients to meet the candidates prior to placement. So I think those helps in us with successful matching.
Got it. How do you handle tough family dynamics or resistance from the senior?
For me, one thing I learned in leadership is, you start from a place of understanding and non-judging mindset. I look at them as my ally. I think that's super important that they all have maybe like, especially for family dynamics, that they all care for their parents or whoever the recipient of care. And from that space, I hope to in some ways realign them and be a source of putting them back to where the care goal is really meant to be, right?
Right.
That's focus on the client's care. And there will be differences. And I think I typically acknowledge that. when there's differences, it's okay to have differences. But now, what can we do to compromise, right? With client being resistant, I see that deal as someone, it's not being resistant. It's more so I think there's some emotions left unsaid. And when we're able to really understand that maybe they're fearful, maybe they're there's so much fear of uncertainties. What's gonna happen to them? Are they gonna lose that control, right? And us this can actually be used by family members too. If you start from that place of understanding that they're not being resistant or difficult, but more so there's fear that we need to in some ways discuss and allow them to share, then I think there will be more openness to conversation from my experience.
Yeah. Do you have any red flags to look out for when interviewing other agencies?
Well, I think this is not just other agencies, but for all of us, right? When we
Okay.
overpromise, right, to gain the business, when we overpromise, and one thing I learned is to underpromise but overdeliver. So that's one thing. I don't promise consistency, especially for shorter hours. So that's really something that um, very important for me to share when clients are requesting for consistent caregivers with shorter hours and different schedule, different times. Those are some of the things that I think some red flags if you're promising consistency in those situations. Or maybe they have their own strategies or whatnot. But for
Yeah.
us, I think that will be a red flag if my team member says we can promise consistency for 4 hours twice a week with different dates.
Yeah. Get it. Now let's talk even more so about your company. I want to hear more about the culture, legacy, and your vision for the future. I know you've built a company culture that so many admire. How?
I think, Dale, being someone who's no longer really focused on what other people's perspective of me, what you're
Hmm.
gonna say, allowed me to be a little bit freer and
Yeah.
happier in leadership and being in the space. And I think that helps my team members or anyone part of Care Indeed to know that it's okay to be themselves, and that somewhat create a safe space to share when they're not in their best self. And again, we're not always acknowledging that we're not perfect,
Great.
acknowledging that there are bad days, there are tough moments. We don't agree on some things, on some days, and that's normal, part of relationship.
Right.
So I think that creates a stronger culture
Yeah.
within the organization, starting from leadership. Did I answer your
You
question?
did. You did. Yeah. So, yeah, thank you very much. I mean, you set the tone for your company and all of your employees. They all look up to you and you're setting the pace for all of that. Off as being very real and very genuine. And I know that that flows through the rest of your company, you know?
I try every day.
What are some values you refuse to compromise on?
Integrity.
Mm.
Integrity. I personally feel that doing the right thing, even when no one's watching you,
Mm-hmm.
is a way of living. And I feel that doing the right thing for your clients, for your
Mm-hmm.
caregivers, when you promise something, you have to fulfill it. And if you cannot fulfill those promises, even a mere, I'll call you back.
Mm-hmm.
Those are very, very, it's of jugular importance to a lot of people, right?
Yeah.
So I feel that integrity is really a value that I cannot compromise.
Okay. What legacy do you want to leave through this work?
Great questions. I want to be remembered, or I want Care Indeed to be a space where they remember that there was once a home care agency that made them feel seen and heard. Whether you're a client, caregiver, employees, acquaintance. That will be something I wish for
Perfect.
myself and for the company.
And how are you preparing the next generation of leaders in home care?
I think, again, sharing my story, if they're open to listening, not just the wins, not just the highs, but also some of the struggles that we face. I'm open to sharing that. I think that prepares future leaders to know that it is part of the journey and it's sacred, and we should never avoid the lows of businesses, right? Because you're going to learn something there. Um, I think also it's super important that in this process that we understand the importance of self-love,
Mm-hmm.
because this is a very service people-centric industry,
Yeah.
and sometimes we're not aware that we're running empty. So I think those are very critical thing that we should all know and remember during the journey, and not wait, well, when I get there, that's when I'll take care of myself. No,
Yeah.
you do this, you do it in increments, right?
Right.
And last is, I think, super important to surround yourself as future leaders, future entrepreneurs. Super critical to surround yourself with people who, number one, celebrate your wins, who inspires you, and who share the same values or even better values than you do. So those are very important.
I love that. Now, what's one thing you've learned the hard way, but now wouldn't change for anything?
I think one of the things that resonates to me right now is everything and everyone is not meant to stay.
Okay.
Because letting go, I get attached to people. I
Mm-hmm.
get attached to things. And one thing that I'm learning is that the gift of detachment. I'm
Yeah.
still trying to learn it. But there's no forever. So being able to be okay letting go of things, of people, when it's really time, is a gift that you give to yourself and to the company. And most likely, that space that they leave will be a space for someone better, something better. And that's something I learned the hard way.
Yeah. Got it. Now, I have a few fun personal questions so
Sure.
that our audience and myself get to know you better. First question here is, what's something that restores you outside of work?
Mm. For a lot of people thinks I'm an extrovert.
Yeah.
And I am definitely not an extrovert. I'm a proud introvert. Um, I love my quiet moments when not working. I love meditation.
Yeah.
I didn't realize how powerful meditation was until recently, like just starting your day with meditation and prayer.
Mm-hmm.
I love to read books. I didn't realize that I love reading books until later in life,
Yeah.
right? And I love yoga. I love yoga and hiking. I love nature.
Yeah.
So those are some of the things that really restore my energy.
Excellent. And I love a lot of those things too. I'm an introvert. I'm not sure if I told you that, Vanessa. I'm an extroverted introvert.
Mhm.
Hey, what advice would you give to your younger self before
Mm.
starting this entrepreneurial journey in home care?
Trust the process. Trust the process. Vanessa, don't be too impatient.
Yeah.
Don't be too impatient. Everything you go through, whether it's easy, challenging, everything is meant to play a big role to where you should be next. So trusting the process, I think, up to this point is something that I tell myself every day.
Yeah. Is there a mantra or a quote that guides your leadership?
People first.
Hmm.
People first. And I think that allowed us to stay here in this business for 15 years and hopefully more, because I believe that when you take care of your people within reasons, you're able to make them feel that they're valued, they're important. They will take care of you, especially during hard times.
Yeah. Now, lastly, any final words and where can people connect with you or learn more about Care Indeed?
Okay. So it's simple, like just go to www.careindeed.com, right? And
Yeah.
you can Google my name. I think my my number is online, and you can find it everywhere. But yeah, www.careindeed.com, for easy access to about Care Indeed, what we do, services we provide. And my last words for anyone watching this is life is beautiful. We just have to find time to pause, consciously be away from the chaos in our daily existence, work, and everything. Because I think those are sacred moments where we really hear ourselves,
Mhm.
what we want, what's important for us. So when we go back to work in our day to day activities, that we are clear and we are in some ways not someone that can be easily influenced by
Mhm.
a lot of things. So find time for yourself without having to do a lot of things for everyone else, but
Mhm.
focus on yourself first. I think that's something that very important for all of us to remember how valuable and sacred those times away from the world just for us.
That's solid advice. Thank you. Now,
No, go.
Vanessa, thanks so much for joining me on today's episode. Your honesty, vulnerability, and deep passion for dignified home care really come through. It's not every day a leader in the industry is willing to share not just the wins, but the growing pains too. And that kind of openness is incredibly powerful. I know so many families listening will walk away with a deeper understanding of what quality care really looks like. And I also know that other professionals in the space will feel inspired and validated by your willingness to talk about the hard stuff. You're not just building a care company, you're helping reshape the caregiving conversation. Thank you again for your heart, your leadership, and your courage. And for those of you watching or listening, if your loved one is considering senior living and you need to figure out what to do with their home, let's chat. Schedule a free consultation with me by clicking on the Calendly link in the episode description box on YouTube. Learn more about my services at www.simplifyseniortransitions.com. Have a quick question, DM me on Instagram at SoulByDale. And be sure to check out other episodes of the Simplify Senior Transitions podcast available right here on YouTube, as well as Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and all your favorite listening platforms. If you found this episode helpful, please share it with someone who might benefit. And don't forget to leave a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. It really helps others discover the show. Thanks so much for tuning in. One last thanks to Vanessa for being on the episode today.
Thank you.
And I'll see you all on the next episode of the Simplify Senior Transitions podcast.